Hi everyone, how are you today on this Saturday? And thank you for joining me here live on my Facebook page, Carol Craig Creations Online Classes. And today we are going to be playing in the mud. And we're going to be using Margo's mud. And if you have never used Margo's mud or know anything about it, you'll have a pretty good idea today of what it is and how we use it. We're going to be actually working on this the three basic techniques for doing this pumpkin. And as we go along, I will try to answer questions. Let me put up comments here, and so I can see if any of you have come on and what you might have to say to me. I've been busy this past week getting ready everything for the OKC painting convention and completing, I'm teaching 3 classes there, and so I've been putting together all of my surfaces and packets, and yesterday I packed up 6 priority boxes that I'm getting ready to send off to Oklahoma so that it can be there waiting for me. But today you'll kind of see what I'm going to be teaching there, because I will be using the same techniques that I'm showing you today. I will be using to teach my classes there in Oklahoma. Oh, I see we have some people coming on. Please comment and say hi so that I know that everybody's hearing me. Hi Lucy, yes, you're finally catching me, and I'm so glad that you can be here to share this with us. But before we get started, and while we're waiting for people to come on, I would like to tell you about some of the classes that are coming up live on Zoom. And we're going to be doing, I believe it's this Thursday, we're going to be doing this thankful plate. And the plate itself is from, hi Kat, the plate itself is from Hobby Lobby. I think it's on sale now. It's for $1.99. And all of the white that you see on there is Margo's mud, and the plate is already embossed, so you don't have to put on any type of pattern or anything. Hi Kathy. And so this is a great class for beginners, and it's going to be on this Tuesday, September 13th. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to my website to register for the classes. And of course, with any of my live classes, you do get the live class also with a video download, which is an instructional video and not a class recording. I never record my classes. So therefore, you can act silly, you can tell jokes, or whatever you want to do. And that way we can't have any extortion or any blackmail for what is said in class. But I've always done that because I want my students to feel comfortable showing me their work and asking questions if they need help. And then, as always, you get a full instructional e-packet also with the class fee. And so, like I said, you can simply go to my website where it says online classes and register for my class. Okay, so I see some more coming on. Hi, Linda and Carolyn and Laura. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we're going to begin now talking about Margo's mud. Well, what is Margo's mud? Well, first of all, it's a texture glass medium that can either be kiln fired at 1440 degrees so that it becomes a permanent part of glass or bisque or something that can withstand that temperature, or we can simply use it as we do for decorative purposes. And for us, the only thing that we need to do is after we apply our mud, we need to let it dry for 24 hours. And how do you get started with mudding? Well, the very first thing to do is to go to buy a mud kit. And this is what a mud kit looks like. And we actually can go to the website margoclark.com and order the mud kit, and it is complete. Now, this picture is an older picture that shows only one bag and tip, coupler, and all, but now with the kits that you get now, you get 2 tip and couplers, and you're able to make up an entire jar of mud at one time. And as you can see, there's a sponge in there, and that is where you store your mud. And I'm not going to show you in the video today how to actually fill the bag, because I do have a Facebook channel that you can go to. It's Carol Craig Creations, or YouTube channel. And in that YouTube channel, there is a video that shows you completely how to fill a bag. So you're not going to need to know how to do that. So what you would do is go purchase your mud kit, and it contains everything that you need in order to mud. The only other thing you need to have is a glass of water or a little jar of water, a white chalk pencil, and a piece of clean paper towel. Now, how easy is that? So those are all the things that you need in order to start mudding with Margo. And so in the video today, I'm going to show you how we do it, and then we will go to our project. And for those of you who would like to, you can actually go to my website and let me get the right button. Yes, to there. And I have an e-packet available for this project. It's just a Facebook special. It's $10, and you can go there. It's right on the front page of my website, and you can order it, and then you'll have it for future reference. So let's get started and talk about, and let me show you a little bit about mud and how you do the 3 techniques. So I'm going to switch to my other camera here, my overhead camera, and you will, this has been through a few wars here, because it's, you can see it's a little battle weary. I try to mud at least 2 or 3 days a week. Sometimes that doesn't happen. And let me adjust my camera just a little. There we go. Okay, so you will get all of this in your kit. And as you can see, it is a little battle weary, but yet I have had this, I think I've been using it for a year now. And mud, since it is a medium, it needs to be kept moist. And so our sponge that we have has water in it. You can see the water coming out of it. We need to keep the tip of our bag moist at all times. So it's like your plants. You need to every once in a while take a little bit of water, spritz it on here, and then you're good to go. Another thing that we'll be talking about today is Margo's brush. It is a special red sable brush that Margo developed. You'll notice, well, and people ask me, oh, I can just use a round brush that looks like about a number 4 round. But look at the chisel edge of that brush. You are able then to, you'll see that it's square crossed, so we're either able to use it as a flat brush or we can use it as a chisel. And we'll talk about that more as we're going about and doing our the techniques. So when I'm getting ready to mud, I always want to keep the bag in the sponge when I'm not using it. So I keep my glass of water away from my electronic equipment. I don't want to knock anything over so that I'm getting into my electricity. And okay, let's see, the sound is hard to hear. I have mine turned up all the way to, sorry about that, let's see. Let me come and turn that up a little bit. Let me get over here and, is that better? Okay, I'm talking as loud as I can. Maybe it's something in our connection or whatever. You know, Facebook has a mind of its own. So I'm sorry, but I hope that you'll be able to hear me loud enough and watch what I'm doing so that you will be able to hear me. Okay, so I'm going to take out some of the medium that I get with my kit, and I'm going to put it right down here in this little well. Okay, Barbara Corfitson says, I can hear you really well. Okay, gals, well, crank up your volume, and thank you, Barbara, for letting me know that. And what I'm doing here is I'm just flattening my brush out, just to kind of, you know, flatten it out some, just to get that medium in the brush. One of the questions I get all the time is, can I use water? Absolutely not, because it will make the medium, the glass medium, chalky looking, and it will not flow when you do one of the techniques. So let me put this over to the side because I'm right-handed, and let me see if I can bring you in just a little bit closer here. I'm still learning. Oh, there we go. There's so many buttons with this software program that I use that you never know which one's going to work. So forgive me if I bumble a little bit here. You gals are used to me bumbling, and so let's get started. So the first thing, the first technique that we're going to talk about is holding the bag and making lines. That's our first technique. And the way that we make our lines is the way we hold our bag. Now, you can hold your bag in several different ways. I know Margo holds hers like this and squeezes out. That drives me crazy. I can't control it. I hold mine like this. So whichever way you feel is the easiest for you, that's the way you should hold it. I'm using my thumb for pressure, and it's very important that you don't hold your bag like you're decorating a cake, but that you keep it at about a 45-degree angle so that when you put the mud tip to the surface, your mud is going to flow out easily. Now, there's two things that affect the amount of mud that comes out of your tip. One is the amount of pressure that you put on it, and secondly, how quickly you move. Oops, I want to come in a little bit closer. Yeah, there we go. And I'll probably stay off camera, so there we go. So you can see fast movement, thin line, pressure and slow movement, thicker line. And this is a kind of a learning curve that you have to learn in order to get the right amount of mud out for what you want it to do. Now, if you have your tip straight up like this and try to squeeze it out, you are not going to have any texture or dimension. And you can see on these other lines, you can see how I've got texture there. And that's very important because that's the beauty of mudding, is having all this great texture. So you'll want to practice and get a feel for how much mud I want to squeeze out. For bigger elements, we would squeeze out more mud. For smaller elements, we would want to squeeze out less. And I'm going to show you that in the next step. So we do lines for stems, as you can see here. And now, normally you could do lines with your mud for the center of the sunflower. However, in this design, I painted them in and then put dots in there. And I think you can see that there. I don't want to make you dizzy. But lines are very important to know how to use and control. Now, you girls will have to get it under control. That's the whole thing. So, that's the first technique. The second technique is something called dribble, catch, and pull. I know, it sounds like something a 3-year-old would be doing to you. Dribbling, and then you'd catch him, and then they'd try to pull away from you. I have asked Margo about this so many times, but that's what she does. And what dribble, catch, and pull is dribbling or squeezing out mud, and then coming in with our brush, and here's what we're doing. We're picking up medium here, flattening our brush. We've got medium on the brush, and then we're coming in, holding it like a pencil back here. We're not choking up on it. Our arm is resting on the table. Our elbow is at a 45-degree angle, and we're going to come in and catch and pull. And what I am getting here, and I'm on cardstock, so it's dry. What I'm getting here is the look of what I call a waterfall. You can see I've got the highlight, I've got medium value, and then I'm fading off to the shaded area. And that's what we want to get, because as you can see on our petals, we have a highlight around the edge, and then right in here's our middle value, and we fade off to the shaded area, which is always our background color. So this is really important to have this technique, because we use this technique for every leaf or petal that we would do. And another thing you want to be aware of when you are dribbling, catching, and pulling, depending on your surface, which is either porous, like this paper, I would need to use a little more medium because that's going to help my mud glide. See how it glides, and you can see the wet there that makes it glide easily. If I do not have enough medium on my brush, I'm going to take off the medium. Look what's going to happen. I'm going to get dry. I'm going to be dry and flaky. And I don't want to be dry and flaky. I want to be smooth and subtle, just like this. So if you get a look like this, you know that you're not using enough medium. So those are some things you want to think about. In our project today, we will be doing dribble, catch, and pull on the petals. And so what we will be doing, and I'll just show you this now. Where's my white pencil? Okay, here's one. Whenever we're using our mud for, let's say, a petal, we only squeeze out half of the size. And every living thing has a growth point. So what we would do in order to do the petal is we would squeeze out about half of the petal, pick up medium, and then come in and lightly catch and pull. And so you can see with that, we've got highlight, a medium value through here, and it fades off to the shaded area. Now, you'll notice that I've been using one tip and one brush for everything I've been doing. That's why control of your mud is important. Because if I want to make a smaller petal, what do? I squeeze out a smaller line of mud. Here's my growth point. Pick up medium, and then I'm just going to catch and pull. And because I've squeezed out a little amount of mud, I still get the three elements of highlight, medium value, and shading because of the amount of mud that I've squeezed out at the top. So that's dribble, catch, and pull. And one thing I will show you also right now, because we don't have any in our actual project, we do petals and leaves. And leaves are done exactly the same way. This would be the top of our leaf. Here is where it would grow from. So I'm going to come up, squeeze, and notice how I'm at a 45-degree angle so that my mud can freely come out. And then I'm going to start in the center, catch and pull, and there's my leaf. The only thing I changed was the shape of the way I squeezed out my mud. And I hope that makes sense. Okay, so then we learned how to do lines. We need a stem in our leaf. So we just simply squeeze and curve a line in to create a stem. And maybe I want a smaller leaf. What do? You remember? Think about it. I squeeze out a smaller line of mud and then create a smaller leaf. So that's what I love about mud. It's so minimalistic because you're using one brush, one tip, a glass of water, and your surface, and you're having fun. You're not having to actually come in and you have 15 brushes, 30 different bottles of paint. And I have a very extensive painting background, and I love to paint, but I also love the fact that this is so easy. So I want to show you this while this is going. See how I've got some mud and white in my brush? This is when you would want to clean out your brush. And all you do to clean out your brush, this is my water and I'm handling it very carefully over here. I just take it, swish it in the water, tap it, and then wick it on a piece of paper towel. It's ready to go again. Oh, and by the way, this is also cleanup. That's how you clean it up. This is Margo's brush is red sable, so we need to treat it gently. And I usually can use a brush for the entire year. And remember, your brush and everything I'm using comes in the kits. Okay, so the third factor of mudding. So we had lines, dribble, catch, and pull. And the third one is something Margo calls 3-dot clusters. TDC, that's what you'll see on my e-packets because it takes too long to write out 3-dot clusters. Barbara Corfitson, who's one of my students, these are her favorites. She's always loved these, and I just wanted to mention her today because she just had some challenges with it, but she got it finally, but I love to tease her about that. 3-dot clusters are exactly what they say they are. They're 3 dots, and I'm illustrating this with my pencil. They're 3 dots that you squeeze out in kind of a triangle shape, and then you're going to pull, pull, and pull them down. Now, 3-dot clusters are these little guys along here. They're also what you see here, because in this design, we put a whole bunch of 3-dot clusters together to create leaves. They can be a substitute for leaves. They can be baby's breath. They can be stamens in a flower. They can be all kinds of different elements for whatever you want to create. And so the way we do that, and this is the first, we always warm up when we do mudding completely before class. Even as long as I've been mudding. Some days a 3-dot cluster day, some days it's not. But what we're going to do to make a 3-dot cluster, we're going to point our tip away from us, and we're going to squeeze out 3 dots. And let me tell you, girls, this is the first 3-dot cluster I've done today, so who knows what it will be. Okay, there's my 3 dots. And because my tip was pointed this way, I've got 3 little pointy things, and let me see if you can see them there, sticking out there, and that's what we're going to catch. So in order to do that, I'm taking my brush and I put it in medium. You can see the glistening medium in there, and then I'm going to pinch it. And I'm going to make a chisel edge. Okay, Lois Ann's asking, do you have to seal plastic or glass surface? And the answer to that is, on a glass surface, absolutely not. You do not use alcohol to clean a glass surface because the alcohol contains a oil that will not let your mud adhere. And plastic, it kind of depends. Just let me grab this. This pumpkin that I did the other night in class, before it was, this is just a Walmart pumpkin. When I actually came in and felt it, it was really slick. And I thought, my bling and mud might have problems with that. So I took a Krylon matte spray and sprayed the whole pumpkin. And now it gave it a little bit of tooth in order to give it something to hold on to. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so 3-dot clusters, and 3-dot clusters wait for no one. Okay, we've made our chisel. We come in, hold our brush up catch, pull, and pull. Now, you can see I squeezed that mud out, and then I talked for a minute. You want to catch and do those dots immediately while your mud is fresh. So I'm immediately going to come in, catch, catch, and catch. And as you can see, let me flatten this out just a little. I use the front corner of my brush. Margo uses the back corner of her brush. For me, that I for some reason cannot get that pull of that back corner. So I figured out if I hold my brush more straight up and down and then kind of catch it on the chisel edge, that gives me a better look. So let's do another one. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Do not let the, and let me see if I can bring that in just a little closer. Yeah, okay. Maybe even a little closer for this. There. Okay, so I've made a chisel. See those little points sticking out there? I'm going to catch them. One, catch, and catch. And there's my 3-dot cluster. Many times we use a straight 3-dot cluster like this. We did between our petals. But you can see the rest of the time we're curving them. We're curving them along the edge too. So how do you do that? You squeeze out your mud exactly the same way. Make your chisel. And sometimes I will pull this one out here first and then pull the other two into it. But that gives me a curve. And of course, this is my easy side because I'm right-handed. If you are left-handed, then this way would be your easy side. For me, it's not because I'm right-handed. I want to be relaxed, and right now I've got my elbow up against my arm and my rib cage, and that's not comfortable. So what can I do? I can turn my surface, and I'm holding my brush right here where the ferrule meets the handle, and I can come and turn, turn, and turn. And just like any other element, when you're learning to paint or anything else, you have to learn to do the easy and the awkward side. So, what I've just shown you are the 3 basic techniques of mudding. I've shown you that you need just one basic kit. You're going to learn to do lines, dribble, catch, and pull for your petals and leaves, and then 3-dot clusters for accent, and also 3-dot clusters are used for all of our snowflakes. You can see here how we can either do a 6-spoke or an 8-spoke snowflake. And also I've got a little example here of how we do ferns, or how we start with a curve to make our 3-dot clusters particularly go along our bling that we use. Let me grab that pumpkin again. And you can see in here how I have come along here and made my bling the focal point, and I've pulled my 3-dot cluster back to those. And so many times it's design as you go. Okay, so let me come out a little bit further, and we're going to just start, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do our pumpkin. Now, I have another one here. This pumpkin came from the Dollar Tree. It was $1.25. They've got them there. And of course, with any wood surface, I put a sealer on it and actually sanded it off. Then I painted it with Folk Art Pure Orange, painted the stem with Thicket, and then and the base was painted with Burnt Umber, and then I came back in and with a chalk pencil drew line for segments and used my brush with asphaltum, and I came along and just shaded to make the sections more prominent, and also gives it a more realistic look. I really like asphaltum for shading because it's transparent, so it's easier to get the shaded. And then I just you can see here where I kind of streaked a little through here so that it took away just the harsh one color of the pumpkin. You can either come in and take a chalk pencil, draw a circle, and then outline around. We're doing 8 petals around here. Or you can actually take the pattern, the line drawing that I included in your e-packet, and you can put it on with just regular paper, your transfer paper. And I always recommend coming in and using and putting it to something you can see through so that you're able to position it the way you want, hold on to it, and then slip in your transfer paper. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in, and if you have an e-packet, you can follow along with me. We're on page 5. And the first thing I'm going to do, and I want to make sure I keep it under the camera here, and let me come in a little closer here. Let me just, because I want you to see this. Come on. I'm just coaxing it in a little bit. How's that? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my mud, and I'm going to come in, and I already have a little pencil drawing on here. I'm just going to come in and squeeze in. Now see, that's the top part of my petal. And I'm only going to pull it down to the circle. And then I'm going to come in, and there's my dribble, and here's my catch and pull, and I could tell that my mud was dragging a little bit. And I just want to pull it into that first petal. Okay, now I'm going to go across. It makes it easier, particularly if you don't have a pattern on here. You can do the 9, 12, 6, and 4 of a clock, and then put your petals in between, and you're good to go. See, I'm doing my 9 o'clock now. And then I'll come around. So now I have my 4 corners. If I didn't have anything marked, I would know that all I have to do is just go in between those 4 petals, and I am good to go. So there. And you can see the size of line that I'm squeezing out. It's a little bit larger because I want some really nice highlighting on the outside. One thing about mud is when it dries, if your outside edge is not bright enough, once it's dry, you can always go back in and put in another little line and brighten it up. So just that quickly, we have all of our petals in. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to actually get my stem in, because I want my stem to be able to dry before I can come back and put any of these elements on. If you're not sure where you'd like to put your stem, take your chalk pencil and just come along and pull out your stem. I know I want a line to come out there, and I know it's hard for you to see, but I can see it. And then I'm going to come out from here, and then I want to come out from there. So now that that's marked, I can come back in, and I'm moving slow so I don't make you sick. I know from experience that it's easier for me to draw a line from left to right. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm right-handed. So I turn this because I want to start here and bring up a line. And now I've got this little lip of this thing, so that's a little bit, but maybe I can get in here and, okay, that's good enough. And then turning it this way again, so I'm going left to right. Now, those need to dry, but you can see how quickly this can all come together. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to let everything dry. While this is drying, you want to make sure that before you leave your brush laying anywhere that it's rinsed out so that the mud does not dry in it. And so I'm just swooshing it in my water and tapping it. I decided instead of using lines to come across with mud that I would use paint. And the closest paint color to mud is Folk Art, is a warm white. And it matches the mud entirely. So I'm just putting out a little bit, and I'm going to use my itty-bittiest fine little liner that I have. Margo actually has a wonderful set of liners. This is a 5/0, and I'm using a little water with it. And I'm going to come in, and I'm not going to thin the paint, but I'm just going to thin it just a little bit so that anytime you lose a liner brush, anytime you use a liner brush, you know that you're going to need to use a little water. Okay, so before I do that though, I'm going to come in with my chalk pencil, and I'm just going to draw an X. That's going to help me keep my lines going straight. So remember, I can go from left to right easier. So let me keep my hand out of everything, keep my head out of the camera. And I'm just going to, now you can draw out each one if you want. But I'm just kind of winging it. It's not going to matter that much when you get your dots in. And one more here. And you could let that dry. Oh, I'm going to put one over here. I just see I need a little one there. Okay. And then come across the other way. I can't talk, breathe, and do lines all at once. Maybe you can. Maybe you can stand on one foot and scratch your belly at the same time. I can't. Now, if I weren't doing this on Facebook Live and we're just sitting here, I'm sure those would be a little straighter. But you can see what I've done, and now that's ready for it to dry. And of course, I want to rinse out my brush. And also, while this is drying and my petals are drying, I think I can come in and do 3-dot clusters between my petals without interfering with anything else. So and actually this little stand here when you're doing this is, so there's my 3 dots. Going to make a chisel, and now this time I'm just going to bring my 3-dot clusters in straight, and I'm going to go around and do all of them the same way. So if anybody, while I'm doing this, if you need to grab another cup of coffee or tea or whatever you're drinking, you can do that. It'll just take me a couple minutes. You want to keep your hands out of the wet mud, she said, because I'm sure noted for having mud up to my elbows. None of my students are, but I always seem to get mud everywhere. Now, do you see how I brought that stem up to this petal? That came from years of mudding, because in times past, I would have brought that stem right up in between the petal, and then I couldn't have put a 3-dot cluster in there. So even if you're blonde, after years of doing this, you do remember a thing or two. But you can see how quickly these little 3-dot clusters go in. They're so fun. Let me get back on the camera. I'm slipping away here. And one thing about it is, as you're doing these 3-dot clusters, if you're brand new to doing this, if you make a mistake, just get a wet brush of some kind, and you can come in and pull the mud off, or use a Q-tip. A wet brush, though, is really good to clean up mud if you've made a mistake. But get to it right away. Okay, so there's my 3-dot clusters all around, and I think these are not quite dry yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and start doing my leaves because I want to show you the construction of how you do make these little fern looking guys. I think I can start with this one up here. I'm not going to do all of these because it would make the video too long, but I want to show you how we can do it. And actually, oh, this is my tap test. This one's pretty dry, so I think I'll show you on this one. And let me come in just a little bit closer. There. Okay, so what I would do to construct this fern is I would start out here with a 3-dot cluster, pinch my brush so I've got a nice chisel, and then come back in just like that. I think I'm going to make this a 5-dot cluster. So what do? Just simply add dots and come back in. All right, so now I've got the end of my fern out there. This is my mother stem right here. So I'm going to squeeze, lift, squeeze, release, squeeze and release. Where am I going to pull this? Okay, you know I'm going to bring it into that mother stem and I'm going to curve it in, just like that. Then I'm going to come over on the other side, squeeze, release, and then pull back in to the mother stem, just like that. It's not exactly the same kind of tight 3-dot cluster that we've done, but it's still curving. Anything that you're doing when you're doing stems, leaves, these little fern type things, you've got to curve or they're not gonna look right. See how I curved that one? And this one's probably going to end up being a 7-dot cluster. And you don't always have to use odd numbers because, okay, I've got a 5-dot cluster there, but I don't have any more room over here, but I sure do over here. So look what I can do. I can add 2 more dots over there, come in, curve, and look at the nice leaf that I've got there, even though it's not equal on both sides. Let's put one more over here. I'm going to come out here, squeeze, squeeze. And the great thing about mudding is because it doesn't take a lot of time for cleanup or you don't have to prepare to do it, you can just sit down and open your kit and go. You can sit down if you've got 10 or 15 minutes and practice and then just swish your brush to clean it, put the lid back on your container, and you're good to go again. So see, there's another kind that I just kind of stuck in there. But now this over here is calling to me. Just one little 3-dot over there. And the more you do this, the more you'll just be able to come in, design as you go, and freehand everything. So you can see how I've created a beautiful leaf cluster in there. All right, so I would do the same thing. You can see how I've done the same thing on these others. If after the video you'll study the photographs, you'll see how, oh yeah, she did a 7-dot cluster on that one. And you will begin to see the mechanics of putting it together. All right, so now what are we going to do with our center flower? Well, what I decided to do, and I'm going to turn this so I don't have this in my way, I'm simply going to squeeze and dot around the outside edge. And again, remember, 45-degree angle, squeeze and release, squeeze and release. And I'm just turning it. There's little tips that end up on your mud, and I have questions. Can people get rid of those little tops on there? And I think I can show you. There they are. Actually, I like them because, again, it's more texture. And for our center cross, we're just simply going to come in and put dots at each intersection. Now, if they're too close, you might want to let some dry and then some of them then come back in. Because you usually don't want your dots to touch. So because some of these outline ones are still wet, I'm not doing the little cross sections close to them. But now you can see I've got texture there in my center. To finish this up, we have to do two more things. We're just simply going to come into our stem and we're going to outline it a little bit. So I'm just going to come in and pull and just stay on the inside a little bit. Okay, that was simple. And also you can outline your leaf. And I just came around and went around the outside edge. I'll just show you a little bit. You're just going to come along the edge and join it and go completely around. So the last element of our pumpkin is to actually come in and start putting 3-dot clusters. And when we're doing 3-dot clusters in this format, we're always starting at the top. And you could come in, if you're new, and put little dots where you want them, but I say go for it. So I'm just going to simply squeeze, squeeze, and squeeze along the edge. Use my chisel. Okay, so there's my first one. Simple. I'm just going to kind of come where it doesn't stop and put my second layer of dots. And you see I'm curving and following the shape of the pumpkin. See how I curved those little 3 dots? Just so, it's not a big curve, but just subtle. Oops, takes 2 more dots to make a 3-dot cluster, Carol. If you come to my classes, I tell you, we have so much fun. You never know what's going to happen. Some things that happen in my class we keep secret forever. But we do have a good time, and our class coming up on Tuesday night would be perfect for a beginner. The plate is already embossed, so it's easy to follow. We don't have to have any kind of pattern. And we will be going over the 3 techniques of mudding. We always go over doing our lines, dribble, catch, and pull, and our 3-dot clusters. And as you can see, I would just continue completely on around this way. And at the bottom, where I had the end, I just simply put a dot. Another thing, if you wanted to do something a little bit different and you wanted to not have these solid, you could come in and put a dot between each one and then do another one. So there's always different ways to decorate things up, and the most simple designs look elegant. So let me change up here. And okay, I'm back again. So I hope that learning the 3 techniques of mudding and a little bit about where you can get it. Remember, you can go, let me find the little line there. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. There it is. You can go to margoclark.com to get your mud kit. It's $46.95. Margo gives fabulous service. We have some wonderful classes coming up. My Peace on Earth, my signature annual series that we do, will be coming up in November. This morning on my Facebook page, my group page, I posted a couple surfaces from Pinecraft that we're going to be using for the Peace on Earth and for another special double class. And also, if you haven't joined my Facebook group, I'd like to invite you to go over there and ask to join, because that's where I post a lot of the special goodies for my group gals. And also, you want to come and join us at our fireside chats. The first Sunday of each month, although in October it's going to be the second Sunday, we get together to have Q&A, sharing, question and answers, demos, and just have a marvelous time. So I want to thank you all for coming today and joining us for this Facebook Live. I hope you know more about Mud now and a little bit more about my classes. And of course, anytime you need to get a hold of me, you can always email me, and that is on my website. And let me find the one for that, which is carolcraigcreations.com, and that gives you all of the information that you'll need. So until I see you next time, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week, and thank you again for joining me. And gals, you're welcome. I love all of you, and I love sharing all these fun things with you. So I hope to see you again soon on another Facebook Live. And as I say in my videos, until I see you next time, bye for now.